tonight? Well, I guess the question is, what happens when, people have been on lockdown for as long as they have been, and they say enough is enough? Well, tonight we have our friend Chase on to discuss a protest that he's going to be holding down in Nashville on Monday, and we're going to talk with him about that tonight on the Unframe of Mind show. Stay tuned for that.
You're listening to the Unframe of Mind show, the place to have the most mind-stretching, unprotected, intellectual intercourse of your life. Your hosts battle the forces of evil by lobbing fiery balls of truth, reason, and evidence over safe room walls.
Well, Jesus, I guess my intro wasn't good enough. We had 18 on the viewership there, and it went down to 13 in the matter of moments.
You're done with doing the intros, my man.
Dude, people are so impatient. Like, stick around, man. Oh, we're down to 11. I guess I must have pissed off 2 more. Let's see. Can I piss off the rest of you before
I think it was just the title alone that's pissing people off because they probably don't agree with this protest. But we're going to find out more.
My brother's in the chat, so that's cool. Hey, Ryan. All right. So anyway, tonight we're actually going to be having a guest on the show tonight to talk about a protest that's going to be running up in Nashville coming up this well, it was going to be this weekend, but it got postponed to Monday. I'm sure he'll cover all the details of that. But I guess let me go ahead and just jump right to it, introduce our guest today. So let's welcome Chase to the show.
Chase, how you doing?
Doing well, guys. How are you?
Doing pretty good.
Thank you for having me on tonight.
Absolutely. So I guess let's kind of discuss this right off the bat. So what was it? Why didn't you want to go to the mainstream media? I had reached out to you about doing the show, but I figured maybe given the events of what's been taking place that you would have decided to go with them rather than just a podcast.
I may still speak to them. However, I have been trying to get the most honest and truthful word out instead of having someone edit it down. I'm sure people will still edit parts of my videos and to make it seem like I'm saying things it's not, take it out of context. But I felt the live stream interview was the best way to be honest about everything.
Yeah, that's definitely the best way to be honest. But if you've watched our show before, you will know that we don't hold back. It is unfiltered, uncensored. So we are obviously not the mainstream media. So what you're going to get from us is going to be the brutal and honest truth of why it is you've decided to hold this protest. So with that being a kickoff point, what just kind of gives a background of what has kind of led you to this point to want to hold this protest?
I grew up in a family where my father never had what most would consider a real job until he was in his mid to late 40s. He sold timeshare in Spain. When he moved to America, he sold vacuum cleaners and then retired from that business and opened up a British pub. And it's given me a strong sense of entrepreneurial spirit. And I have a lot of friends who own businesses, several nail salons. My cousin works in a hair salon. Who are now non-essential and are reconsidering their career path because of this new risk of doing business. Right. I am actually considered essential, so the effect on me has been mild. I have still had hours cut, but I've always been big on freedom, and when it affects so many people that I know around me, and their future plans and where they've invested their debt into, it really disturbs me. I have always been loud about my opinion, and since the start of this, it hasn't passed the smell test, in my opinion. So,
well, you actually did bring up an interesting point that I hadn't considered. That I'm sure, given enough time, it would have crossed my mind, because you see the same thing over and over again. People tend to react to different government regulations and things like that. And what you were just talking about is people are questioning their career path because they know now that at any point in the future, because of the career path they've chosen, the government can just jump in and say, hey, you're non-essential, you're out of work all of a sudden, and there's nothing you can do about it. And that would definitely cause me to try to find a different work that would be more a defense against these kinds of things, or protect my family against these kinds of irrational, or just not even irrational. What's the word here I'm looking for? Rash.
Arbitrary.
Yeah, arbitrary is a good word, but I'm just saying, just rash and just, I don't know, man. It's something about the uncertainty of it all that's got me really kind of pissed off, because you have people going, okay, I don't know when I'm going to be able to go back, if I'm going to be able to go back. And like you said, I don't even know if I'm going to stay in this job now, because I don't know what's going to happen again.
Yeah.
Not only that, I was speaking to one of my friends today, and he works for one of these companies that is fortunate enough to be able to cash flow employee salary until these business loans and stimulus checks go through. So he has been off of work voluntarily for 3 weeks, has been earning more than he was when he was at work, and he doesn't have any desire to go back. He's enjoyed the time at home, and I understand that. Everyone would, but it's not sustainable.
Not at all.
No.
And we're going to pay for it. Come hell or high water, we're going to pay for it for sure.
Yeah.
He's enjoyed spending time with his child, and I told him he should be worried about the debt that his child is earning because of that.
Yeah, that's exactly right. There's we're talking about debt that our children are going to have to pay, our great grandchildren are going to pay. I mean, this is, we're still paying back debts from like World War II right now, from last I knew.
Yeah, the ripple effect to this is going to be pretty big. So
and we're seeing the effects of it on the economy. I mean, just based on the fact that the U.S. dollar is lost over 97% or so of its original value. That alone should tell you that all this intervention and all these little tampering and all these different measures they keep trying to take are not they're not working. They're just not working. But it's such a slow burn that nobody really notices, I was just sitting there going, I got gas today, and I noticed it was $1.45, and I'm like, man, this is weird, because it's about 20 cents more than it was when I first started driving. I think when I started driving, my first tank fill up was $1.24 a gallon. Cost me like $20. Filled up my whole tank.
Those were the good days.
Right. Exactly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So let me ask you this. There's a lot of people that are obviously against this protest. You know that. So
Absolutely.
What would you say to the ones that are against it and the ones that are heavily in favor of wearing a mask and social distancing and and they're just kind of worried about going back to work, because obviously the chances are still kind of high up there, with still getting COVID-19. So what would you say to those folks?
I would say that we don't truly know what the risk of getting COVID-19 is right now. Mm-hmm. Over the past few days, multiple studies have come out showing that the numbers of asymptomatic people could be twice as high. Mm-hmm. I'll let people do their own research on that and wait another week to see the numbers come out. But I see two types of people in this stance, and I've tried to make this complete event not partisan. I don't care if you're Democrat, Republican, liberal, conservative. Put all of those aside so that we can go back to work. But it's because there's two types of people: those that believe that the people should have their own choice in the matter. That if businesses want to close down and pay their employees and get loans, they should be able to. But if a business wants to stay open and try to mitigate the risk in their own way, that should be a choice. And then the other group of people believes that the government should, through threat of force, mandate their opinion on others. And there's only one group of people here that wants to use force to get their opinion across. And that's the side that wants the government involved. Let people make their own choice. We're responsible. We do it every flu season. I know this isn't the same as the flu from the numbers we have right now, but it still kills people. And to say that those lives matter less than those that have died from COVID-19 that's terrible.
I remember making a similar point about this on one of our previous shows, just saying, if they're going to have this kind of reaction over this particular virus, there's no reason why we shouldn't be doing it over every virus or every time flu season comes around. Let's take that time and just shut everything down. And if you're going to be consistent, why now?
Right.
Why do you think
what would be much easier is to lower the speed limit to 25 mile an hour
Oh, screw
that would
that.
almost completely reduce all traffic fatalities, and that's something that is constitutionally allowed.
No, screw that. Lower it to 5. Let's just get rid of them all
Oh,
completely. Every
horse
human
and
life.
buggy.
Every human life. You know,
Horse and
there's-
buggy.
There will be no auto vehicle accidents if we go back to horse and buggy.
That's true. That's true. And there
We're
would
kind
also
of we're kind of going back to the Amish.
yeah, there would also be no unemployment if we all went back to digging ditches by hand.
You know,
Now, there are two groups of people, and my dad brought this point up to me, who aren't being mentioned, who should be way more affected by this highly contagious virus than we're hearing. The homeless,
Mhm.
who have poor hygiene by default because of lack of access to it,
Mhm.
and are most of the time already in bad health, and the Muslim community, who pray in mass and are not going to abide by all of these restrictions.
I
But
never
you don't
actually
hear
thought
a
about
whole
that.
lot about that in the news.
Yeah, that didn't even cross my mind.
No, that's
I do
a valid
want to
point.
I do want to point out a comment from YouTube. Rico says, "Dude, I had a job I was super proud of, and now between 847 a week plus the stimulus, I'm now making more money and my family is living more comfortable, but I'm already super depressed. I have no structure and I'm gaining weight and haven't been this miserable and unsure in my adult life. This is terrible. This is not free money." What do you-
I would suggest to him that to find something constructive, like go to a gym, but unfortunately, Governor Bill Lee has still got those shut down.
That's very helpful, Chase. Thank you for completely useless advice. That's why we have the big dogs on the show.
He wants to join our protest. The people that work at the gym want to go back to work too. It's part of the same movement.
Yeah.
All right, so I've got a comment from Twitch by Kitty Cat, says "fucking idiots" in all caps.
Well,
I would like some more context. I don't know if she's talking about the government's decision to
are
shut
you
everything
assuming gender?
down.
I think she's still living in the early 2000s where cruise control or caps lock was cruise control for cool.
Cruise control for cool. That's right. Yeah, I would need more context because I mean, if you're just gonna like cuss at us in all caps, I don't know if you're talking about us or if you're talking about the other people or if you're talking about Chase's comment about Muslims still praying in mass. I don't know what you're referring to. So maybe a little extra context
A
would
little
help
clarification
us
would work for us.
address your concern. Absolutely. Let me get. I think we kind of brushed right past the whole reason we're having you on. I just wanted to make sure to get this out. Tell me about this event. You're putting on an event coming up Monday. Just give us some detail on that, if you don't mind.
I was speaking to a few of my friends about a week ago, and after hearing about a group on Facebook called Michiganders Against Excessive Quarantine, I knew that I wasn't the only person that felt like this was absolutely absurd. I knew it wasn't the popular opinion, and I said, I think we should have a protest. I said, I've never organized one before, but this is ridiculous. We have a right to assemble as long as it's peaceful. And we need to exercise that right. Otherwise, this will happen again. It might be 5 or 10 years down the line, but I guarantee you within 10 years or maybe sooner, some countries and some states will have rules where we do this for a week or two every flu season just to mitigate those deaths.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of like sorry to interrupt. It kind of reminds me of muscles. You know, you say we got to exercise those rights, and just like muscles, if you don't exercise those muscles, what happens to them? They atrophy.
They deteriorate. Yeah,
exactly, and then you don't have those muscles anymore. So yeah, I totally get where you're coming from. We do have a right to do so, and we should do so when it's deemed necessary.
And I'm a very opinionated person on a lot of things, but I saw that both sides of the aisle wanted to support opening Tennessee. I mean, most of my friends who are servers or bartenders are complete Democrat, and they don't like Trump, which is fine. We can disagree on some things,
right?
But when I saw that this is a bipartisan movement, I just felt the need to help people share their voice. I'm fortunate enough to have been able to partner with a couple of people who have experience in this. So it's helped me get the word out. But I'm just hoping that everyone is able to put all their partisanship aside that day so that we can actually show Bill Lee we want to reopen. even if you don't want to personally go back to work, you should feel that each person has the right to choose that.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, I know that my Republican friends hate that term, the right to choose, but I mean, it's the truth.
Given the context, I completely understand what you're saying. We do have a friend of ours in our Facebook group who is incredibly pissed off because, you know, while a lot of quote unquote non-essential workers are, you know, just like the example that we read earlier in the comments, we're making more money now than we were when we were working. We're sitting on our asses, not doing shit. We basically became Democrats overnight, and sorry. So he's incredibly pissed off because he's still working. He's essential. He drives a truck. He's working 60 to 70 hours a week, busting his ass, and for what? I mean, it's not like they're getting extra bonus money. It's not fair,
No.
like at all.
Well, if you look at the industries that are deemed essential, it's every industry with the money to lobby. As far as I'm aware, there's not a hairstylist lobbying movement or a tattoo parlors movement.
Mm-hmm.
But healthcare, grocery stores, all of them have the money to lobby. And I guarantee you, if you had decided you were going to shut down fast food restaurants, you would see so much outcry from big business like McDonald's, Burger King, Taco Bell, those places, because they wouldn't have it. Unfortunately, the places that have been closed down don't have, a lot of them do not have the money to lobby to get Congress to actually hear their opinion. So the only way to do that is through a peaceful assembly.
So let me ask you this. How much overreaching do you think the government's doing with this virus right now?
I don't even know where to start with that. I mean,
Yeah, well, I mean, just while you're thinking about where to start, more to Anthony's question is like you know, okay, this is a problem. We're not trying to talk down the amount of problem that the coronavirus is. We do recognize that it is something that needs to be addressed. It's something to be taken seriously.
Right.
People are in fact dying, but
Absolutely.
at some point, how much, you know, rhetoric and propaganda and shit like that is okay. You know, how much is this reporting on the news, and how much of this is the additional propaganda that's just trying to fan the flames, so to speak, and make people even more scared?
I'm going to call out News Channel 5 because I've personally seen them do it in this instance. They're clickbait. They are simply trying to get visitors to their sites, which I understand. That's part of business. But at some point, you have to have responsible journalism. When they put total COVID cases, they don't have anything on there that would be responsible in saying this in no way reflects the total number of cases. This reflects the number of positive test results that have come back on people that have been tested. How many people may or may not have had this in January?
Right.
We don't know.
So
until you get accurate counts, anything that you put out needs to be responsible. It's like when the War of the Worlds, when they read that on the radio.
So I do have a comment coming in from Facebook from Rebecca. It says, I'm so torn. I am a teacher. I miss my students so bad, but closing schools protects me. Parents time and time again send their kids to school sick and knowing that they're contagious. And she just wants to teach. So what would you tell a teacher in this situation, you know, about reopening and things like that?
It's really tough because I understand being afraid, especially after hearing all of the propaganda. I mean, I've heard people repeating the 5% death rate, which with any amount of research, you'll know that was early numbers. And they were completely skewed by the lack of total testing and lack of actual information on what percentage of the population has had it.
Right.
I would say you should always be a little concerned as a teacher with catching things from students. Maybe I would not have thought about that going into that career, but flu season, the very first time I experienced one, I would have made that I would have understood that risk. Now, I think it's up to individual school systems to implement testing if they want to. I know a lot of parents won't want their kids tested,
Right.
or some way of maybe mandating that kids go home. Personally, they've done a really good job at teaching remotely.
Mhm.
If they wouldn't give kids tardiness and absenteeism for missing school when they're sick, might be easier to teach remotely.
Can you imagine how much different things would be if the governments weren't the ones running the school? If teachers had more choice in how they operated their classrooms?
I don't know it. One of
So
the guys I work with, his wife is a teacher, and I hear about those stories every day.
yeah, I know it's a little bit more of a tangent than our original topic there, but yeah, it's something that's always been a little.
Well, I think
irritating me.
conversations like this need to be had if you're going into a protest, because you got both sides wanting to know, well, what's going to happen if we reopen. And, you hear the statistics, on TV and on radio talking about how, May might be worse than April. We don't know. You know what I'm saying? And then you got others that are just like, no, screw it. You're infringing on my rights, and so you got both sides kind of have at this tug of war, so to speak. And, we're trying to give the examples of what it's like coming from the other side, and people wanting the information and to understand where you're coming from your side. So if they decide to demonstrate, you at least have an idea of where they're coming from, if that kind of makes sense.
Absolutely. One of the things I would like to bring up is when we find someone is positive and they are asymptomatic, or they are not very sick at all. They don't even realize they had it. They were just getting tested.
Right.
We rely on them to self-quarantine.
Right.
Now, we have judicial precedents to quarantine someone that has a highly contagious, deadly virus.
Mm-hmm.
They have certain rights. That was just decided on, I believe, in 2017 or 2018 after a nurse was quarantined for Ebola exposure.
Right.
But when you get sick, do you have to go anywhere? Pharmacy?
Yeah, I usually have to go to the pharmacy. I have to check up with my primary care doctor. If I go to the ER, they usually tell you to go there first.
If the doctor tells you to stay at home for 2 weeks,
mm-hmm.
unless you are more stable than the average American, you don't have 2 weeks of groceries. Probably not 2 weeks of toilet paper in today's market.
Right.
2 weeks of cat food, dog food. At some point, you're going to have to go out.
Mm-hmm.
Well, those people are truly exposing people to a virus. They know they have it. And even by getting food delivery, there is a small risk that they're exposing someone to it.
Right.
But it's not good publicity to blame the sick. And I'm not trying to blame the sick either. It's a virus. If all you have to do is watch one of the millions of zombie movies or quarantine movies, this is how viruses spread. This is nothing new. And now that the numbers are coming out, it's looking like it's not even as deadly as the flu, or very similar.
So I do understand the reasoning for putting on this protest from the constitutional side, from a just a general human rights side.
Mm-hmm.
What do you say to the people who would suggest that you have no right to be putting the lives of others at risks by coming out and spreading this disease, or potentially spreading it?
I would say it would be very difficult for you to prove that I am putting others at risk by existing. And if that is the case, if we are going to classify illnesses and people as carriers and try to blame deaths on people, then I would seriously like to ask how many of the 2018, 2019 flu deaths that person is willing to accept responsibility for. Unless they stayed inside their own complete bubble, then there's a chance that they put other people's lives at risk. Vaccine or not, it's not 100% effective, and those at high risk can't get the flu vaccine.
Mm-hmm.
So essentially, if you're not willing to accept credit and ban Black Friday to lower the flu curve, then I'm not doing that. If I were sick, if I were experiencing symptoms, then I would stay home. We are encouraging people to social distance to the greatest extent practicable. But we can't control other people. All we can do is encourage them. And I'm hoping that if people are afraid, they can still join us. Stay in your car, park on the street, honk your horn. You can stay in your vehicle if you want to. I will personally be on the sidewalk.
Right.
I know a lot of others will be too. But if you want to show up, just don't block the roads. We're not going to have any of that mess or any of that mayhem. That's not happening. We're not going to stop emergency vehicles or do anything like that. That's irresponsible.
So one of my personal concerns is, I do have a family I have to keep in mind, and I really can't afford to go out there and run the potential risk of getting arrested. Is the problem. There have been other instances in other localities, other states, where there was people attending a church in a parking lot from their car, listening in their radio, practicing social distancing, and they still were they were still given fines for doing that, because you know what I'm saying.
Do you know if that was in Kentucky or Mississippi? I know it was pretty close.
I think Kentucky comes to mind, but I don't want to say for sure. I think.
Okay. I know that they were taking pictures of people's license plates and mailing them tickets in some states, and blocking off roads, from what I've heard, in certain states, so that people couldn't attend, throwing nails and screws in the road.
Right.
I put out a video a couple of days ago where I list 5 things that I want Bill Lee to do, because I personally supported Bill Lee in the last election. And one of them is to denounce those governors and those mayors and any city official who is doing that, because that is eerily similar to the events that took place just prior to the American Revolution, and nobody wants that. That's
right. Absolutely.
That's tyranny.
So Kathy Shell from Facebook, she says, if people can use quote unquote common sense precautions in Walmart, Kroger, Publix, like they have been, they can do that anywhere else. Wash your hands. Don't wreck the economy. Open Tennessee.
And don't lick doorknobs. No one was licking doorknobs before this, so don't start now.
I don't know. Kids these days kind of get these new fads going, and they start doing stupid stuff. Yeah, like licking the toilet seat.
Have you seen that, Chase, where they're licking the toilet seats, trying to,
Yes, it's awful. But are we going to outlaw that? Do we need to waste government dollars on outlawing licking toilet seats?
Survival of the fittest. Let them lick toilet seats. Let them eat cake.
I've heard that a lot. A lot of people have hoped that I die of COVID because I'm having this protest.
I was meaning to ask you, like, are you getting any kind of pushback? Are you getting some pretty hateful? I would assume pretty hateful.
I've had
comments
convicted
and emails.
felons send me their address and ask me to show up to their house and fight them. I have had a educational PhD student from Trevecca University. I'm still waiting on a response from them, by the way, on if they support her viewpoint that everyone who attends this protest should die.
Holy shit.
And that's just a couple. Those comments are not people saying that I should sign a waiver for health care. Last I checked, I still pay for my health insurance. It's not my fault that some of these hospitals would rather spend their money on multi-million-dollar lobbies and raises for their executives than to buy more masks and have stockpiles.
Wow.
That's not surprising in the least that you've been experiencing that, especially at this time when the media is constantly making everybody even more afraid of what's going on. So I have a strong sense that a lot of the messages you're receiving is coming out of a place of fear and anger as a result of that fear. And now somehow you have become the enemy because you have the audacity to say, wait a minute, guys, I think COVID could be serious, maybe, but this is also serious too, and we got to be careful. And you're sitting there probably telling people all about, the Patriot Act back on 9/11 and all the other times when the government steps in and takes even more than they take more and more rights every time people.
How long did it take before they abused the Patriot Act? That set up the FISA court, and it was 2016, 17?
I wouldn't even imagine the ink was dry on the document yet.
Probably not.
This 2016 is about when we found out. they were wait like any other bill. These people sit there and wait. They have them on a shelf. We've talked about this before. They have them already on backup, ready to go, waiting for the next crisis. And then when it pops in, they're like, "Yep, here's 1,400 pages of bullshit you'll never read. Let's get it passed."
Yep.
I want to ask you guys a question because you said that. Do you really and truly believe that there are select few people that do have plans that they would like to implement when the opportunity presents itself? Does that make you a conspiracy theorist to believe that?
No.
I don't think that there's a small handful cabal of people controlling everything, but I do think that there is a lot of different powerful elites in different powerful positions who know how to take advantage of crises. They know how to swing their money around. They know what leverage means and how to use it, and they will use it, and they don't give a shit about who it tramples and who it affects.
Well, there's a lot of stuff coming out about mandatory vaccines now, and ID 2020, and I don't subscribe personally to believing a lot of that. But just the fact that there are people out there that 100% believe that this is manufactured leaves you to worry. I mean, or that the crisis itself was intentionally manufactured. That leaves you to worry, should you give the government power? Maybe it wasn't this time, but should you give them the power to go, wait a minute, now we can.
Yeah, it makes me nervous too, because you look at what is it, the QAnon folks? They're also going, "Oh, this is all part of the plan. Donald Trump is, just trust the plan, stick with the." So they're all just in this kind of sense of lullaby ease, just kind of lulled into a sense of complete relaxation, like, oh, it's all going to be fine. And then they're even a lot of people are saying things like, well, this economic downturn, it was self-inflicted, so it'll be fine, don't worry about it, we can always come back. But
if you shoot yourself in the leg, you're not going to bleed to death.
I don't care whether it was self-inflicted or if it was inflicted by somebody else. If you shoot yourself in the fucking heart, you're gonna die.
Yes.
So I guess what I'm gathering from this is you just want a peaceful protest, but also remaining careful in the same sense. And that's what you'd like to see Tennessee do, is open back up, but still practicing safe measures.
I would like to see people take individual and personal responsibility.
Yes, thank you. That was something I was going to talk about once before, because we've been kind of covering the coronavirus over the last 10 days that we've gone live. And it's almost as if people don't know how to take the accountability of themselves and personal responsibility to just practice good hygiene. This isn't hard. I mean, it's just, that's what gets me. It's just, it's funny, because when I go into work sometimes and I look in the lunchroom and I see how dirty some of those lunchroom tables are, I often tell people, I wonder what their homes look like, and how clean and sanitary they really are. And it almost seems like this is a people problem as far as being clean, with cleanliness and just practicing, sanitary things. Yep. It's not hard to do. So for me, it's more of a people problem than it is anything else. It's one of the reasons why we can't combat this, is because people are just too damn lazy to want to, sanitize things.
Yeah, to wash their ass.
Right.
So on that note, I want to discuss the first models, the very first ones that projected 2.2 million deaths, and it was really scary and intimidating. Mm-hmm. You guys remember that model?
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
We've been covering this virus well before the media had even started covering it, believe it or not.
Yes.
So,
well, when that came out, it was admitted during the press conference, and I'm not very good with photo editing, or I would have put it out in one of my videos, where they actually said this was projected using no risk mitigation. This other curve, the one where it showed 120 to 210,000 or whatever it was, this is when we implement all the mitigations, which included 100% social distancing, washing your hands, and all of that. Well, anyone who's taking a statistics class or who has implemented things into a system like that knows that when you say that one doesn't include them, that means that one model included us not washing our hands ever. And that was the first red flag to me. Why are they showing us this model that literally includes no preventative measures whatsoever? Not people not staying home if they're sick, people not washing their hands, people not standing 6 feet apart. But possibly it may have actually included what happens if people lick doorknobs in Wuhan.
I got to tell you, as many times I go to Walmart, I've been practicing social distancing since I was like early on. I mean, if you see the kind of people that go through Walmart.
I don't know about y'all. I don't know about y'all, but I'm a big fan of taking like tainted bats, rubbing them on a doorknob, and then licking them. That's my favorite thing to do.
I heard that from Ozzy. I heard that's what he
yeah,
does
I know. That's
behind
where that's where I got that. All right, so I do want to read a comment from YouTube here about the Smith-Mundt Act during President Obama's run. Do you guys have heard of this? I'm sure, where he repealed the law that prevented propaganda being used on our own citizens. That is true. I have looked into that. That is absolutely true, and that doesn't surprise me at all. First of all, given our current political climate, and it doesn't surprise me at all if we found out that was being directly used against us in this particular climate.
Well, I'm probably going to get some of the specific details a little wrong, but one of the very first laws that was challenged by the Supreme Court, or that was heard by the Supreme Court, that gave the government power to enact things like martial law and restrict things for illness in this sense, happened right before the Civil War. Well, before that had happened, we started a war with Mexico over Texas by lying about where the troops were in relation to the Rio Grande River. That's a well-known historical fact that we lied so that we could justify attacking them. So, I mean, that's almost 200 years ago that happened in our history. If you don't think that we would use propaganda to push a viewpoint, then I've got a bridge to sell you.
I never did understand that phrase because, I mean, bridges are
well,
useful.
I mean, you can pick the bridge up and I'll take it to your house.
So, Erica from Facebook says, I have been licking the gas pumps. I thought everyone's doing that. Erica, you got to get with the program. Like, people are really up in their game nowadays. If you want to like gain any kind of following on your TikTok, you're going to have to start, doing something a little more crazy than just licking gas pumps.
I hope she does that and sends us a video.
Don't wish that on anybody. How rude. How rude.
Oh, jeez. So just from what I've gathered, you seem to be more of a libertarian, maybe constitutionalist. Is your background here? Am I right on that account? Or?
Yes, I believe in small government. Okay. I understand things like the minimum wage were needed when we started, but now if I was posting a job on Craigslist and I was offering to pay you $2.25 an hour, no tips, are you dumb enough to take it?
Sorry, I missed that. One more time.
If so, my thing is, the free market will make the decision for you. I understand the minimum wage is $7.25 right now, but if the minimum wage disappeared right now, you would be hard pressed to find someone that would work for less than $7.25. Mm-hmm. If they did, then it's most likely by choice because of the perks of the job.
Right.
So, whereas we needed certain movements to fix things, the private market and free market will oftentimes react fine. It might take a little longer. People are stubborn. Businesses are stubborn. People are set in their ways. But people will adapt when it starts to affect them and when it starts to really affect their neighbor.
Oh yeah, you're absolutely correct on that. I do feel like I'd be all for eliminating the minimum wage altogether instead of trying to push farther north as if that's going to solve anything, because it does not. Like we discussed earlier in the episode, people do react to incentives. They react to the regulations. They change their business practices based on their best guess at what is going to come down the road. Like that breaks my heart that people have to include that into their calculations of how they run their business or how they operate, or their job selections, their career choices, that kind of thing. Sorry, I mean, there's some comment discussion going on in the comments. I'm not seeing any actual questions. By the way, if anybody does have any questions for Chase about Monday's events, please feel free to throw them out there, and I'll try to catch them.
Yeah,
one of the things I do want to get across to keep focus on the event is we're asking everyone to wear whatever you would wear to work. If you're a blue collar guy, wear your jumpsuit, wear your blue collar outfit. If you work as a Verizon store rep who's been told your store is not essential enough, wear your Verizon outfit. Now, some companies might backlash against you, so cover up your logo with tape so that you can't be identified what company you're with.
Mm-hmm.
But if we could show Bill Lee a horde of nurses from Cookeville that have been laid off, if we can show some lawyers, some other doctors that are performing surgeries like, facelifts that are deemed non-essential right now, if we can get real working stiffs out there, it'll send a message. We're not trying to go out and cause havoc. We're not trying to create a problem. We're trying to be heard. So wear your jumpsuit or wear your work uniform, jumpsuit, whatever it is, and bring a resume. I'm sure there's going to be some employers there, people who own businesses. It doesn't hurt to hand your resume out.
That's not a bad idea. I didn't even think of that. Just can we have a moment of silence for the Hollywood elites and the super wealthy who aren't able to get their facelifts and Botox during this terrible time? I mean, that is a real struggle. That is a real struggle. I totally understand.
On that note, colonoscopies are also one of those things that people aren't getting right now. They can if they really push for it, but how many things of colon cancer are going to come in 6 months because they weren't found now? How many people are
it's the unintended consequence. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. It's the unintended consequences that we're not able to quite figure out just yet, that we're going to see hitting us real hard, like you just said. 6 months from now, how many cases of colon cancer we're going to see that didn't show up, or how much the hospitals were already overwhelmed by certain things anyway. How much more overwhelmed are they going to be trying to catch back up with all this? Government offices, for example, already kind of running behind on everything. The legal system, the court system, the jails, all that stuff is already running months behind as it is. Mm-hmm. Like, the unintended consequences of this entire shutdown, we're going to be feeling this for years to come. Not to mention the hyperinflation involved in printing out 2.7 million or however, I don't even like numbers.
Trillion.
They're just numbers. $1 trillion. They're just huge ass numbers that nobody can even fathom. But people are like, oh, okay, well, I got a check in the mail, so I'm good. Well, I'm not even gonna pretend like I just asked you a question there, but
but okay. On that note, we've already seen what good this can do for the environment. I'm sure you guys have read those things. Now, personally, I believe that that's a personal choice. And if we could control weather, then it would be 75 and sunny year round. But what happens when they force people to stop driving or force people to sell their cars because you only need one vehicle? Because they can do that.
That almost kind of seems like a communist state. Is what it sounds like.
1984, guys.
Yo, that's straight up 1984.
Yeah.
And I've been using quite frequently the hashtag COVID 1984 just because of that. It's
I like that.
I'm surprised you haven't seen it. You ought to go check that hashtag out. You find out a lot of shit on there. And that's actually where I get some of my articles. We've already done 3 parts. 3 individual episodes about just government overreach during these times. Just examples of things like them. I haven't even gotten to the one where they wrote the tickets to the church going members sitting in the parking lot. That's on my list, ready to go for a part 4. When we get time.
Oh. Raleigh Police Department in North Carolina said protesting is not essential on Twitter.
Saw that,
it got retweeted like 4,000 or 5,000 times, and then they took it down.
Yeah.
And then they reposted something the next day where they doubled down on that stance.
Wow.
Yeah. Okay. I'm surprised. The government doubling down.
Wait a
They
minute.
don't ever do that.
The government applying force until you comply or die. Where have I heard that before? Must have been something I've said a few times on the show here.
Yeah. Once or twice, maybe. So going back to Monday, what time could we expect to see you out there, and how long is this event going to last for? And what exactly is your message when you get there, and what would you like to see happen? Obviously, we want Tennessee to open, but is there anybody specifically that you would like to meet with or talk to?
I would love to speak with Bill Lee.
Okay.
That would be fantastic. John Cooper, Mayor John Cooper, would be someone else I'd like to speak to. I've heard they've already proposed a 20%, I believe, property tax hike to pay for this.
Wow.
I'm not 100% sure if it's property taxes. I just caught the tail end of it.
Mhm.
But that's just the beginning of it. What happens when those people that did go to Paul Mitchell and have 30 grand in debt now need bailing out here in 6 months? Those unintended consequences, the lawsuits that they have to pay for.
Right.
So we're going to see more and more spending, and their only solution is going to be to tax it. Well, my message is to open up now. That way you can immediately stop the bleeding. Certain companies will still not open,
Right.
but you can educate without dictating things to people.
Right.
But I would prefer if they would educate us with real numbers and not scary models that were based off of everyone licking doorknobs.
Right on.
So what time do we expect this event to kick off on Monday?
let's give the who, what, when, where, why.
It starts at 11 a.m.
Okay.
I'll be there a little early to help coordinate some of the parking. You are probably going to have to pay to park. It is Nashville. We will be posting some of the cheaper parking places when we get there. We don't want to let anyone have the opportunity to seal off parking garages to prevent anyone from showing up.
Right.
You may have to park at a meter if you don't feel like walking. We're hoping to stay until Bill Lee gives his presser.
Still,
I'm not sure if he's going to give one. He skipped one on Friday.
still needing
guess
the
we
wear.
had one.
Still needing the wear.
Legislative Plaza.
Legislative Plaza in
Which is
Nashville.
at
11 o'clock
301.
a.m. Monday. Hey, I'm not supposed to be doing this. This is your job. Just give me the deets, man.
All right, all right.
Think of it this way. Think of it this way, Chase.
I got you.
More than likely, what Anthony's going to do is he's going to clip this up like he does all of our other interviews. Now, if you can give us a nice little soundbite, a nice little 60-second chunk, given the important, vital information, now is your chance. All right.
Gotcha. So we will be holding the Protest Bill Lee Open Tennessee event at 11 a.m. in Nashville at Legislative Plaza, which is located at 301 6th Avenue North, Nashville, Tennessee, 37243. We want you to wear your work outfits, uniforms, whatever you can that shows you're ready to go to work, and bring your resume because I'm sure there's going to be business owners and other people there that are looking to hire folks. So it's going to last most of the day. We're hoping to get a chance to speak with Bill Lee before or after his COVID-19 press conference.
All right. And one last thing is if people want to reach out to you for more information or get those details again or what have you, where can people find you?
They can check out my Facebook page or Twitter. I don't know my Twitter handle. I'm brand new to it. It's a completely abstract concept. But my website is chasematheson.com. My contact information is on there. That's CHASEMATHESON.com.
All right. And let me grab one more comment before we get out of here. Erica says she's not fully prepared for fully open country as I haven't shaved in at least a month.
Wow.
So I think that's I think, as far as closing lines go on shows, I think she just earned that.
She did.
She did. All right.
keep your legs hairy and your car part. I don't know, man.
You're bad at these.
I'm so terrible at it. I'm
Don't
not.
be a COVID Karen.
Don't be a
There you
COVID
go.
Karen. All right, Chase. Listen, I appreciate you coming on. If there's any other things you wanted to add before we wrap this up, Anthony, Chase.
No,
either one of you.
I appreciate you guys having me on too. And please, anyone who attends, no matter what your other beliefs are, please set them aside. All we want to do is reopen Tennessee. Be safe, be responsible, and however you feel is the best way for you to show your support. Come out there and do so.
All right.
Awesome.
So thanks for coming on. And,
Yeah, appreciate it, Chase.
If you guys want to
Thanks.
be a guest on the Unframe of Mind show, head over to unframeofmind.com and you can fill out the form there to be a guest on the show. We're definitely looking for more people to discuss these various ideas. If you heard Chase's interview tonight and you think he's completely full of shit and he's a complete psychopathic lunatic and you want to have your voice heard, we'd be glad to have you on to have that discussion. So I guess we're gonna wrap it up there, and until next Wednesday. Currently is our next. We're going back to our normal schedule.
Yeah,
every
the 10
Wednesday.
days is finally up.
Yes, it is, and I'm ready to get some other shit done, show related. So
Right.
yeah. So Rico asks, where is he wanting us to meet? So Rico, just follow him on Facebook. There, he's been interacting in the chats quite a bit, so you should be able to find his Facebook page on our live feed. And you should be able to ask him directly for that information. So, all right, y'all, until next time, this has been another Uncomfortable Conversation Without a Condom, where we have the highbrow ideas and lowbrow packaging.
And keep your pants dry, but your dick wet.
See,
Have a good one, guys.
See, you're good at it, but you only came
What?
up with